When planning my annual leave, I could have chosen Paris, the Maldives, or a safe Italian tour, each promising comfort and predictability. The glossy brochures promised me world-class cuisine, sun-drenched beaches, and the kind of Instagrammable moments that rack up likes but fade from memory. It would have been easy, almost too easy, to slip into a routine of sightseeing, shopping, and sipping overpriced coffee at a sidewalk cafe. But I craved a story, not just a tan. I wanted something that would stick with me long after the sunburn faded. A tale to tell, not just a destination to tick off a list. I wanted an adventure that would make my mother question my sanity. The kind of trip that would have her clutching her pearls and Googling travel insurance for reckless children. So I spun a globe and landed on the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. Not exactly the first choice for a relaxing getaway, but it called to me with the promise of the unknown. Perfect. No phone signal, a billion ways to die, and humidity you could chew. The air itself felt like a living thing, thick and heavy, daring you to step inside. My friends feigned enthusiasm, then quickly changed the subject to their Spanish villa. They couldn't quite understand why anyone would trade sangria and sunbeds for snakes and sweat. I was undeterred, ready to commune with nature, find myself, and maybe become a modern Tarzan, minus the spiders. I pictured myself swinging from vines, discovering hidden waterfalls, and returning home with wild stories and maybe a few mysterious bug bites. Preparation was its own ordeal: convertible trousers, a beekeeper's hat, and enough insect repellent to start a war. My suitcase looked less like vacation luggage and more like a survival kit for a reality show. I watched one survival documentary, learning that everything in the jungle is probably plotting your demise. Still, I felt ready. I took notes on how to avoid venomous frogs, what to do if a jaguar stares you down, and how to tell edible berries from the ones that make you hallucinate. Armed with a water filter, a first aid kit, and the belief that humor would protect me from jaguars. Spoiler, it doesn't. But optimism is a powerful thing, especially when you're packing for the unknown. But I was off, chasing a story worth telling. I wanted to collect memories that would make people lean in closer when I spoke, not just nod politely. The sensible holidays could wait. This was my chance to step into the unknown, to trade comfort for curiosity, and to discover what kind of champion I could become, one mosquito bite at a time. Getting to the Amazon isn't a trip, it's a gauntlet. First, a normal flight to Manaus. Easy. Then a propeller plane that sounded like 1,000 angry bees, piloted by someone who looked barely old enough to drive. The endless green below was beautiful, until we landed on a dirt strip and reality hit. Next, a wooden canoe with a wheezing outboard motor captained by Joao, who communicated mostly in grunts. The river looked like chocolate milk, and I was warned not to trail my fingers unless I wanted to feed the piranhas. As we chugged deeper, civilization faded, replaced by the jungle's wild soundtrack. Every cough of the motor took me further from comfort and closer to the bottom of the food chain. I clutched my bag, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake, but there was no turning back. Stepping onto the muddy bank of the Amazon, I was hit by a wall of heat so thick it felt like a living, breathing thing. The air was heavy, almost syrupy, and every breath seemed to stick to the inside of my lungs. My boots sank into the muck, and I realized immediately this place was going to test me in ways I hadn't imagined. It felt like entering a sauna, one filled with things that bite, sting, and crawl. The air vibrated with the constant hum of insects, each one eager to make a meal out of any exposed skin. Mosquitoes, gnats, and flies swarmed in clouds, undeterred by repellent or clothing. The heat was a living thing, clinging to every inch of skin, soaking my clothes within minutes. Sweat poured down my face and back, pooling in the creases of my elbows and knees. There was no escape from the humidity. It pressed in from all sides, relentless and suffocating. Our rustic cabin was little more than a collection of planks and hope, with more holes than walls. A hammock sagged in the corner, and a mosquito net, threadbare and full of suspicious gaps, hung limply above it. Privacy and comfort were distant memories. My roommate was a gecko named Gordon, who seemed far more at home than I did. He skittered across the walls, feasting on the endless buffet of bugs, his eyes unblinking in the dim light. I envied his ease in this place. The jungle is relentless, loud by day, deafening by night. Birds screeched, monkeys howled, and as the sun set, the chorus of frogs and insects rose to a fever pitch. The sounds never stopped, they only changed, shifting from one cacophony to another. Sleep was elusive, the mosquito net my only defense against the buzzing, biting masses. Every itch, every tickle made me wonder what had found its way inside. I lay awake, listening to the jungle's symphony, hoping the net would hold through the night. Everything here is built for survival, usually at your expense. The animals, the insects, even the plants seem to have evolved with one goal: to outlast, outwit, and outfight anything that dared to enter. Even the plants are dangerous: sap that burns like acid if it touches your skin, vines that itch for a week, and thorns that can pierce even the thickest boots. Every step was a negotiation with the landscape. I quickly learned to walk with my arms pinned to my sides and touch nothing. The urge to brush away sweat or swat a bug was outweighed by the risk of brushing against something worse. The Amazon doesn't want you comfortable. It wants you alert. Every sense was on high alert, scanning for movement, sound, or the telltale shimmer of something venomous. Every sound at night was a reminder: you're not in charge here. The darkness pressed in, alive with the rustle of unseen creatures, and the knowledge that you are only a visitor in their world. I sweated, I listened, and I tried to quiet my racing thoughts. The jungle demanded respect, and it punished carelessness without mercy. And so, each night, I lay beneath my fragile net, hoping it would hold, knowing that out here, survival is never guaranteed. Welcome to the jungle, a place that's hot, wild, and absolutely unforgiving. In the Amazon, insects rule. My first night, a forgotten biscuit vanished, replaced by a marching army of ants. Beetles the size of thumbs, moths like birds, and spiders that could pay rent. I gave tarantulas a wide berth and learned to respect even the smallest creatures. My most dramatic encounter? A venomous caterpillar that left my arm burning for an hour. Not all wildlife was terrifying. Monkeys swung overhead, sloths embodied my energy level, and pink river dolphins surfaced like magic. But for every beautiful moment, there was a bug. Mosquitoes, ants, and more. The Amazon constantly reminds you, you're just a guest in a world owned by the creepy crawlies. I learned to check my shoes, shake out my clothes, and never ever leave food out. Here, survival means respecting the bugs, and sometimes just surrendering to them. The insects always win. Always. The real enemy in the Amazon isn't the wildlife, it's the humidity. You don't sweat, you leak. Showers offered 45 seconds of relief before the next wave of stickiness. My deodorant surrendered by day 2. Simple tasks became Herculean. Putting on socks felt like a workout. I fantasized about ice cubes and air conditioning, my new definition of paradise. Nights brought no relief, just hotter, wetter air and a symphony of falling mangoes and buzzing mosquitoes. Sleep was a series of damp naps interrupted by paranoia and jungle noise. My standards for comfort plummeted. A dry shirt was pure joy, a breeze a miracle. I moved slowly, channeling my inner sloth. The Amazon strips away your dignity and leaves you a sweaty, humble mammal, and you learn to accept it. Meeting the local guides was both inspiring and humbling. From the very first handshake, I could sense their deep connection to the land and their pride in sharing it with outsiders like me. There was a warmth in their welcome, a genuine curiosity about who I was, and a gentle patience that made me feel at ease, even as I fumbled through introductions. They moved through the jungle with effortless skill, reading the forest like a book. Every step seemed intentional, every glance a conversation with the trees and the earth. I watched in awe as they pointed out hidden trails, animal tracks, and edible plants I would have missed entirely. Their knowledge was encyclopedic, but delivered with a casual grace that made it look easy. My Portuguese was limited to obrigado and apologetic smiles. I quickly realized that language barriers are real, and that my attempts at conversation were more like a game of charades than actual dialogue. Each interaction was a reminder of how much I had to learn, not just about the Amazon, but about connecting with people whose lives are so different from my own. My attempts at communication? Mostly embarrassing pantomimes like accidentally asking if a fruit was a telephone. I waved, pointed, and mimed my way through questions about food, directions, and even the weather. Sometimes my gestures made sense, other times they just made everyone laugh, including me. It was a crash course in humility and a reminder that humor is a universal language. I tried the blowgun, but the dart barely made it out of the tube, to the delight of the village children. They giggled and cheered, encouraging me to try again, but my aim was hopeless. The blowgun, a tool of survival for them, became a source of endless amusement for everyone watching. I realized that sometimes being the butt of the joke is the best way to break the ice. My jungle hunter career ended before it began. I surrendered the blowgun with a theatrical sigh, earning a round of applause from my new friends. It was clear I wouldn't be bringing home any trophies, but I was collecting stories, and that felt like a fair trade. Despite my blunders, the locals were patient and kind, sharing their knowledge and laughter. They never made me feel foolish for trying, and their encouragement turned every mistake into a shared joke. The more I stumbled, the more they welcomed me in, as if my willingness to look silly was a sign of respect. They saw a pharmacy where I saw leaves, a supermarket where I saw chaos. Every plant had a purpose, every path a story. As they explained the uses of roots, barks, and berries, I realized how much wisdom was woven into their daily lives, wisdom I could barely begin to grasp. Their connection to the forest was profound. It wasn't just knowledge, it was a relationship, built on respect and understanding. Watching them move through the jungle, I felt like I was witnessing a dance, a partnership between people and nature that I could only admire from the outside. I realized my perspective was limited, and that humility is the best souvenir. The Amazon wasn't just a place to visit, it was a world to learn from, and I was only scratching the surface. Travel isn't just about places, it's about learning how little you know. Every day brought new lessons, and every mistake was a step toward understanding. The more I observed, the more I realized how much there was to unlearn, and laughing at yourself along the way. If you can't find humor in your own confusion, you'll miss out on the best parts of the journey, especially when everyone else is. In the end, it's the shared laughter, the mutual curiosity, and the willingness to look a little foolish that turn strangers into friends and travel into true cultural exchange. My idea of survival was finding a parking spot, not hacking vines for water. Our guide tried to teach us jungle skills, water from vines, shelter from palm leaves, food from logs. I managed to miss the vine and wedge the machete in a tree. Demoted to observer, I was happy not to endanger anyone. My attempt at gathering leaves resulted in a pile of itchy palm, not ideal for bedding. Food lesson, edible grubs. The guide ate one with relish. I politely declined. My survival skills, packing enough cereal bars to last the week. The jungle is humbling, especially when you realize you're not cut out for it. I learned to appreciate the experts and stick to what I know. Sometimes survival means knowing your limits and having snacks, lots of snacks. I left the machete to the professionals. Amazon cuisine is an adventure. Forget Michelin stars. Breakfast mysterious fruits and tapioca pancakes, lunch and dinner fish, especially piranha, bony but tasty and oddly satisfying to eat. Cayman stew tasted like tough chicken. Cassava root appeared in every form imaginable. Farofa, the sawdust-like flour, grew on me. Acai here was earthy and rich, nothing like the smoothie bowls back home. The culinary highlight? Toasted, salted ants, crunchy, salty, and vaguely bacon-flavored. I tried one, then stuck to fish. Every meal was a leap of faith. The food was challenging but memorable. I learned to say yes to new flavors, and no to seconds on ants. The Amazon tests your palate as much as your courage. And sometimes you surprise yourself. As my Amazon adventure ended, I was exhausted, bitten, and desperate for a hot shower. I'd failed at jungle skills, embarrassed myself, and been bested by bugs. Yet, leaving filled me with unexpected sadness. The Amazon strips away distractions, forcing you to be present and humble. I didn't find myself, but I found respect for nature and those who thrive here. I learned to appreciate small comforts, a breeze, dry socks, a meal without insects. I'm a city person at heart, but this wild place changed me. I returned with stories, humility, and a newfound reverence for bug spray. It's not just a chemical, it's a shield, a tiny triumph over nature. Not today, mosquitoes. Not today.